When I first got into Commander a couple of years ago, I didn't come from a Magic the Gathering background, and this really meant two things. One is that I didn't come with a knowledge of the Magic card pool, and so I actually found cEDH to be more accessible for me because it has a meta and therefore it has staples, and so I would see a card, and I'd go to the next pod, and I'd see that card again, and I'd go to the next pod, and I'd see that card again, and it really helped me build a foundational knowledge of the format where I felt like I was getting better at it. I was starting to be able to sit down with players I didn't know and infer some of the cards in their deck based off of their color combinations. Whereas in Casual Commander, I will see 600 cards that I will literally never see again. The second is that I didn't have a collection. And so whether I wanted to play cEDH or Casual Commander at a power level where I was still going to enjoy it, I was going to have to proxy some cards. And that's one of those things that just feels a little bit better when everybody's doing it. And when I sat down at cEDH pods and I'm like, hey, like I've got some proxies in my deck, is that cool? Everyone just kind of looked at me and went like, yeah, me too, man. And so that just felt a little bit better. Now, I know that cEDH by name is a little intimidating, right? Competitive. It can be a dirty word for some people. And all that really means is that it's like Casual Commander, but faster and more consistent. And that means we play a lot more combos. In fact, the format I wouldn't describe as combo heavy, I would call it combo exclusive. And so today I want to help break down that barrier of entry a little bit by explaining 5 of the most common A+B combos. And so let me clarify on that first, actually. So what I want to do for you today is break down the top 5 most common A+B combos in cEDH. A+B meaning I play card A, I play card B, I win the game. Sometimes this will require what I like to call a common game piece, like you already have a creature in play, you already have a mana neutral rock in play, something along those lines where it's so easy to do that you don't really think about it. Whether or not you think that's a 3-card combo, kind of irrelevant as long as you understand that under my definition, that's going to be a 2-card combo. So when it comes up later, you know that that's why. 2 types of combos that we're not going to be talking about are A+B plus Commander, which is usually like a way to make infinite mana and then a commander that wins the game with infinite mana, and A+C, which is like I play this commander, I play this card, I win the game, which is like Heliod, Walking Ballista, Nismivit Curiosity. Sometimes these are main decked in other decks as A+Bs, but that's not really what we're looking for in this video. And so that's how you're going to be losing like 90% of your games in Commander. There's really not that many of them, if I'm being honest. I kind of had to stretch to find a 5th one. And what we're looking for with the word common is it is played in more than one deck, and 2, it is one of those decks is within like the top 10, 15 cards of the format. We will talk about rogue combos at a later date, deck-specific combos, all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to let you know exactly what to expect out of the combos that I'm going to be outlining. Starting off with our most popular combo in cEDH, Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation. Hands down the most popular and easiest to execute combo. Thassa's Oracle basically says when it enters the battlefield, if your library is empty, you win the game. Demonic Consultation, you name a card, you exile the top card of your library until you hit that card, you put that into your hand. So you just name a card that you don't play. So effectively, 1 mana, exile your library, 2 mana, ETB, win the game if your library is empty. And then people also play Tainted Pact, which does a very similar thing to Demonic Consultation. So just because like the Demonic Consultation got dealt with in some way, don't think that you are out of the woods as far as the Oracle is concerned. So the way the combo is actually executed is really simple. You put the Oracle on the stack, everybody is going to let that resolve, and then with the ETB trigger on the stack, that's where the Demonic Consultation comes in, and that's where everybody is going to fight. If it's your first time executing this combo, some things to watch out for are forced draw triggers, either from yourself or from your opponents. The most common ones that you're going to have as far as mandatory draw triggers are like Crom, I believe Fairy Mastermind and Ledger Shredder are forced draws as well. On your opponent's side, they have Fairy Mastermind or Cephalid Colosseum. Fairy Mastermind, of course, having the 4-mana activate ability where everybody draws a card. So just before you let this rip for the first time, be sure to watch out for anyone that can make you draw a card with some card that's already in play. But this is hands down the most efficient and most common way to win a game of cEDH. For our second combo, we're doing some of the weirdest math you've ever seen in your life, where when you take a 3-card combo and you add a 4th card, it becomes a 2-card combo. We're talking about Underworld Breach. I know, that was a bit of a weird one. Let me demonstrate the loop first, and then we'll get into how to turn this into a 2-card combo. Starting off with Lion's Eye Diamond, sack it, discard your hand, make 3 mana of a color, Brain Freeze, target player mills a card, Storm, Underworld Breach. This allows you to play cards from your graveyard for the rest of the turn, as long as you exile 3 cards from your graveyard in addition to paying the mana cost. So, the way that this combo works, let's just get a couple of cards in hand here for the purposes of the demonstration. We're going to throw the Underworld Breach in play. We're going to put the Lion's Eye Diamond in play. We're going to drop some cards. We're actually going to drop every card because we're going to crack the Lion's Eye Diamond for 3 blue mana, dumping all of this. We're then going to exile 3 cards to cast Brain Freeze, targeting ourselves. Storm count is 2, so we'll mill 9 cards. I'm just going to grab a few of them here. You are then going to exile 3 of those cards to replay the Lion's Eye Diamond and crack it for 3 blue mana again, then exile another 3 of those cards to Brain Freeze yourself again. The Storm count has gone up, so now you're milling 15. you know, obviously from here, you just present the loop, you go through your entire library, doing all of that. And then once your entire library is in your graveyard and you have an arbitrary amount of mana, because Lion's Eye Diamond is mana positive on this interaction, you can either then just win the game with some combo from your graveyard. Maybe you just cast Thassa's Oracle because you've already milled yourself out. Or you can just start brain freezing the rest of the table and make them mill their entire library so that when you pass the turn, they lose to deck out in their draw step. So that's how the general loop is going to play out. When we add white and Sevinne's Reclamation, Savine says, return target permanent with CMC 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Flashback 5. If you flash it back, you get to cast an additional copy of Savine's. With this in the mix, we get to play Intuition. Intuition says, search your library for 3 cards, pick an opponent picks one of those cards, puts it into your hand, the rest go in the graveyard. So, with that in mind, here's how the loop becomes an A+B. Let's say we have Brain Freeze and Intuition. We're picking Brain Freeze because it's objectively the most useless one to sort of have in the beginning of this combo. And so we are going to cast Intuition. This is in our hand. We're going to cast Intuition. We're going to pick these 3 cards, right? We have some other cards in hand as well. We have a whole deck here as well. Let's say they give us Lion's Eye Diamond, right? These 2 go to grave. We play our Lion's Eye Diamond. We crack it for 3 white mana. All of this goes to grave. Play 2 additional mana. And we cast Savine's Reclamation from our graveyard. We target Underworld Breach and Lion's Eye Diamond, which is going to be your sort of most common line. From there, we're back to where we started. We crack this for 3 blue mana, we exile any 3 cards, and we Brain Freeze targeting ourselves. And then we, mill a bunch of cards, we cast the Lion's Eye Diamond, we cast the Brain Freeze, and we do, sort of repeat the loop that I just showed you. Now, for the purposes of being thorough, just to show you exactly how this works, let's get the Intuition and the Brain Freeze back over here. Let's say they don't give us Lion's Eye Diamond, right? Let's say they give us Underworld Breach. Well, that's just great. I will cast Underworld Breach, and then I will cast Brain Freeze targeting myself. I'll put some cards in the graveyard, and then, oh look, I'm going to cast a Lion's Eye Diamond from my graveyard. I'm going to cast a Brain Freeze from my graveyard targeting myself. And it's the same thing with Savine's Reclamation, right? If you give us the Savine's, then we just cast Savine's targeting the Underworld Breach, and then we cast the Lion's Eye Diamond, and then we cast the Brain Freeze, and we're off to the races once again. So that is how that combo goes down. It is incredibly common to see the Breach, Brain Freeze, LED in just about every red-blue deck. And then, again, when you get to add white, then any one of these cards plus the Intuition becomes a game-winning A+B. Our third combo is the first one that includes a common game piece. Let's talk about Kitten Combo. All right, this is the first one where I mentioned we got to cheat a little bit. We have to add a common game piece into our combo. It's Displacer Kitten and Teferi Time Raveler. I really like this combo because it inherently protects itself, with Teferi saying that each opponent can cast spells only anytime they could cast a sorcery, and the relevant text on this card is the -3 that bounces an artifact, creature, or enchantment, and you draw a card. Displacer Kitten says whenever you cast a non-creature permanent, blink a card. So, combo's pretty simple. We put Teferi in play, we put Displacer Kitten in play. Let's say our Jeweled Lotus was already in play, and I'm using Jeweled Lotus here to show you that whatever card it is doesn't need to tap for mana, which really opens up the amount of cards that you could possibly be using for this combo. You can even use a Chrome Mox. You just don't imprint anything, and then it doesn't tap for mana, and you can just bounce it as a 0 mana permanent, right? Mox Diamond, you cannot. Mox Diamond will sack itself if you don't sacrifice, or discard a land, rather. So, these 2 in play, we are going to bounce the Jeweled Lotus with the Teferi ability. That is going to draw us a card. We are going to cast the Jeweled Lotus. That is going to flicker Teferi, which will then allow us to activate Teferi again, bouncing the Jeweled Lotus and drawing a card. We will cast this, blink this, bounce this, draw a card. And this combo will draw through your entire deck. And, as I mentioned earlier, drawing through your entire library is generally assumed to be a game win. You play enough fast mana in here that you should be able to make enough mana off of drawing your entire deck in order to win the game. If you're doing this with something like a Mana Crypt instead, then you can even tap it for mana in between each instance. So by the time you're digging through your deck, you're also making a very large amount of colorless mana. And so, yeah, again, just drawing your library is considered a game win. How you actually do it depends on the deck. A lot of times it is going to be Thassa's Oracle. Our fourth combo is the first one that isn't blue. Isn't that a treat? And hopefully that means that you'll forgive me for the fact that you need to have any creature in play. Call your commander, get them over here. I don't care what it takes. We're talking about Twin Flame Dual Caster Mage. That's right, folks. A+B combos are not limited to the color blue. Here we have Twin Flame Dualcaster Mage. Twin Flame says target a creature you control, make a token copy of it that has haste. Dualcaster Mage has flash and says enter the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery. As I mentioned, you need to have a creature in play to kick this off because you need something to target with the Twin Flame. With the Twin Flame on the stack, you are going to flash in Dualcaster Mage. ETB resolves, it comes in, you target Twin Flame. The new Twin Flame is going to target Dualcaster Mage, which is going to make a copy of Dualcaster Mage, which will also target Twin Flame, which will also copy Dualcaster Mage, which will also target Twin Flame, which will also copy Dualcaster Mage. You just do this until you have a bajillion Dualcaster Mages, and then because they all have haste, you go to combat and you swing at all of your opponents, and you get to have one of the more satisfying wins. One thing that you do need to watch out for if going for a combo like this is, while fog effects are unheard of in cEDH, the One Ring is a very prominent card, and when players have protection from everything, they can't take combat damage. So do not try to execute this combo when someone cast the One Ring on the previous turn cycle. You can run into a similar issue depending on how you want to win with the Breach combo that I outlined earlier, because if someone has protection from everything, you actually can't target them with the Brain Freeze to mill them out. You are going to have to do your own combo from grave. But that's sort of the one big red flag to watch out for so that you don't get a little bit too hyphy with this one and embarrass yourself. Number 5 barely feels like it counts, but it's played in Morocco and Winota, so like I kind of had to give it a shout out. All the modern players are going to recognize Kiki-Jiki combo. So I'm kind of including this one so that you understand like how bottom of the barrel we're kind of scraping on like what are actual generic A+B combos. This is played in Winota and Rocco, but not too far outside of it. It can be done in every color combination, but the most common ones are going to be red and white, sometimes green. And it's really straightforward. Kiki-Jiki says haste, tap, make a token copy of target creature, non-legendary creature that you control, give it haste. So this with anything that untaps or blinks Kiki-Jiki is going to go infinite. For example, Zealous Conscripts says enter the battlefield, gain control of target permanent until end of turn, untap it, it has haste, so Kiki-Jiki makes a copy of Zealous Conscripts. The Zealous Conscripts token targets Kiki-Jiki, which takes control of it and untaps it, which allows you to make another Zealous Conscripts, and you do that an infinite number of times, go to combat, gobsmack everybody, right? Same thing with Felidar Guardian, tap it, it blinks, or it makes a Felidar Guardian copy, that's going to blink Kiki-Jiki, and then because Kiki-Jiki has haste, it can simply do it again. Other common ones that you're going to see are Village Bellringer, which just untaps all creatures you control in white, and Combat Celebrant in red, which is a little bit more complicated as you will make a token copy of the Combat Celebrant. I don't own a Combat Celebrant, I'm sorry. Go to combat, exert Combat Celebrant, which will untap all of your creatures and give you an additional combat phase, so then you just make another Combat Celebrant, go to combat, attack, exert, untap. You get the idea. Kiki combos are not very common, but they are played in 2 relatively popular decks, and so I figured it was worth a shout out, if for no other reason than to demonstrate like there's really not much outside of the ones that we've demonstrated here, instead of just like in terms of just like non-commander related A+B jam these out of hand, aside from those A+Cs that I mentioned earlier. Now, if all of this sounds interesting to you, you're ready to jump into cEDH, but you don't know where to start, you're wondering what should my first deck be, I would actually highly recommend Blue Farm. Blue Farm is the most popular deck in the format by a landslide. It is Tymna Kraum. I do not know why it is called Blue Farm. I've heard 4 people explain it to me, all of them different. I don't think any of them were correct. Point is, Tymna Kraum's called Blue Farm. The reason I recommend it as a starter deck is because, one, it generally plays the top 3 combos that I talked about in this video today, so it's a great introduction into comboing in the format, learning those combos, the points of interaction within them, because a lot of decks play those combos. Number 2, there's no reliance on your commanders because Tymna and Kraum don't actually win you the game, and so you get used to just playing with your 99 or your 98 cards in this case, and it'll help you transition into whatever deck you want to play next if you decide, hey, you know, I actually really like having a commander that I feel like wins me the game, and so, you know, you just get to learn a little bit about your play style in what is a very different format than casual Commander, and I do highly recommend that you get off of it at some point and you go try some other deck and just kind of find out what you like. Me personally, I love commanders that win the game from the command zone with infinite mana, and so that is something that we'll talk about in a future video, but for now, if you are completely lost and directionless, give Blue Farm a shot. I don't care if you only play it for a couple of days before you move on to something else. I think it is a great starting point to figuring out what you like in the format and learning about the combos. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.